Hello, I'm Llewellyn Buckley-Murray, and we designed a package called Synaptic. Synaptic is used for the purposes of insurance and UMA management in terms of product and policy management, and it is a software item that we sell to you on a license basis per seat. The software itself is going to help you set up your products, autonomously. It's going to help you set up your brokers or dealerships autonomously, and then manage the process of each sale that comes into the system and each sale that goes out of the system as it expires. So effectively, the system has a couple of key features which this training session is supposed to help you with. In today's training session, we're actually going to focus today on our product management section, and this to me would be one of the most important features within the system. If this and your dealership or brokerages are not set up correctly, you could get results in the reporting that are pretty much nonsensical. So let's dive in and see what we have to do in order to make sure that our products are 100% correctly set up. When we look at the product screen, and we're going to go now onto the computer, we enter into Broker Administration, the tab that I'm showing you now. In the Broker Administration tab, you are going to see that in the middle section here, so we've got Product Management starting at View Products, and that goes into all your different types of products that you can add. So you've got single premium product, you've got product monthly, you've got a vehicle maintenance product or a workshop product. Now, depending on how you manage the system and what type of products you're selling, you will enter into one of these four categories of product that we've got here. So the most standard product would be called our warranty maintenance product, which is a standard single premium VAP product, which will be called single premium product on our system. In order to do this, you're going to need the authorized costing back from your insurance company that will allow you then to enter the details into this. If you are or do own what they call a golden pen, or you're allowed to write your own premium, then by all means come through and do this here. But the standard way of setting up this product is by going from the product design and setup, whichever mechanism you use for that. Then it goes into the insurance company or to the UMA for final approval, depending on whether it's an underwritten or non-underwritten product. And then it'll go to the banks for final approval at the banks to be put into the categories at the bank that will then be found on the actual sale contract of the vehicle. Once that's done, we can then come back here and start entering in the product information. So for today's exercise, I'm going to fill out information that will be a test type of policy, and we're going to use this consistently through this particular training modules so that you can understand how this thing works from start right through to finish. Okay. When dealing with single premium product, you need to know a couple of things. We cannot have multiple names and we cannot have multiple product codes, although you can have similar kind of names. We do stop you or block you on the product code. So when you are doing this product, you need to please get a unique name for the product if you can, otherwise a unique product code. The system will not allow you to save the actual product code if it is not unique. So if you've got something like a division of the product, you can add an A onto the end or append a B or whatever the case may be, but we'd rather you have a unique code because we do allow for financial adjustments under the product itself. We'll get to that later. On the product placement, this is basically on the Synaptic where the product is going to fall. So if you're going to sell the product or let your broker sell the product from Synaptic, this sales placement is necessary. So you need to have warranty, add-on, service, assistance, or other. So the reason we've got warranty and add-on separately is that you can have a singular warranty sold per car. You cannot add more than one warranty per car if you're doing a manual sale through the system. However, a warranty can also be a top-up or a tire plan, for example. So those will go under add-ons, which you now can add on to the product, which is now 3 different types of warranties as opposed to just the one. Service plan will be under a certain section and allow you to add certain benefits onto the system. So we ask you if it is a service or maintenance plan to please select that one. Assistance plan is when there's a set amount of money that you're giving back to the client that he's pre-insuring basically. So don't use that unless of course you've got a particular system in mind. So this is like you're going to give the guy 6,000 Rand over 4 services, and that 6,000 needs to be split in 4 services. The assistance plan will also allow you to calculate your fund differently and or the claim differently to what it's been done in the system at the moment. Other will be for any other products, so as many as you want, and that'll all be found under one particular category. Your product category or invoice type will be what are you going to load this product under. You've then got your bank or branding, so that will be what branding or what bank account will appear on this product if you are going to be selling it. The credit type literally has 2 different options. One is an original credit type, or 2 is the voucher clawback credit type. So if you are doing a non-underwritten product and you're offering a voucher on that product, you'll be able then to claw that voucher back when you do credit notes or at the point of doing a credit note. When you are doing an underwritten product that does not have a voucher on it, then you can just select your normal original credit note product. The term will be settled as soon as we get into all of this stuff and start saving the product, but you can run the term, if it's a warranty, for up to 36 months. If it is any other product, you can do it up to the lifespan of the vehicle. The vehicle type will be assessed by yourself, and normally it will be vehicle type A, which will be standard passenger vehicle. Markup allowed will be if you are going to be allowed to put up a markup when you are selling the product. So in other words, can the dealer or the broker add on a service charge? Dealer earning, max 35%. This is in the case where MFC or the bank, MFC or Nedbank, will only allow an upfront dealer earning of 35% on that product maximum. So this is a safety button that you can set to make sure that your commission and vehicle inspection fee do not gain higher than 35%. If that is not the case and you're doing the average 40 to 45%, you leave that unchecked. It depends on which bank you're using that will allow that. And Traffico is a add-on button for the company called Traffico, which adds on other benefits to your product. Things like license agreements or license renewals or supplementary benefits that will come onto the product as a package. And this will be purely for the Traffico range. Right, let's start entering in or trying to design a new product for you and showing you how this system is going to work in your favor. So we're going to set a standard product name. Okay, so we're going to set up the test product under LMS warranty. It's going to be a warranty product for now. We're going to set the normal product category invoice type as a warranty for now. The warranty invoice type you can actually customize to yourself as whatever you'd like it to be. So if you've got a particular, let's say you work with Hollard or you work with Centric, you can say Centric warranty. So the product category is something that's nice that you can then utilize as a silo in your reporting to get a particular category through as a test or as a report instead of getting all of the data through. The bank and branding information, you're going to just select which bank account this is going to be taken to. For our test purposes, we're going to use Centric as our main account for now, and that will mean that our invoice will contain the Centric branding and the Centric bank account details that are customized to yourself. Each insurer will give you your own bank account, and this is standard for premium collection. So this bank or branding should reflect or should be set up to the bank account that was given to you by the insurance company. If this is a non-underwritten product, then you would be able to then load this as a non-underwritten product with your own supplier. You'll be able to load your own bank account details into this particular section. We're then going to go on the credit type. We're going to go for an original invoice credit, and you'll see now that I've alerted some information, our term has become available to us. So we're going to say that this is a 24-month warranty. We are not going to allow a dealer earning. We're not going to allow Traffico. So now we get into the costing side of this, and this is very important in order to make sure that you are allocating the monies to the right places. And this will be the binder information. So effectively here, your binder details are going to be very set and specific, as into binder 1 to 3, 1 and 5. So 1 being the administrator, who normally is also the owner of the product, and your claims administrator, which is binder 5. Your insurer, and these will all determine who gets which fees. So when you're setting up this product, you need to know all these bits of information. So for now, we're going to say the binder is going to be Designer Solutions. We are going to say that the claims administrator is going to be Designer Solutions. Now this can be set depending on which company you're at. Now you could have a separate administrator working on your products, and that we can put into the marketer and distributor, and depending on your setup and your particular hierarchical structure, you can say, right, this person or this company is going to do the administration, which is normally the owner UMA. We can set a secondary or tertiary company to be a claims administrator, and then your insurer you'll have to then set up as to who is your underlying insurer. Now you may have multiple claims administrators on your owner, you may have multiple insurers on your owner, so here it is important to select which insurer that should be getting those fees. This is also important for what we call the reclaim board. So when you withdraw your monthly fees from the insurer's premium account, you'll need to make sure that this is set up correctly, because the system will use this to allocate which products you are going to draw from that account of which has been paid. We're now going to set up the basic costings of the basic cost mechanic behind the system. So I'm going to take a 10,000 Rand product. We are going to then put on a 2,500 Rand inspection fee. And we are not going to put anything else on for now. As you can see, because we've selected warranty here, the voucher part is still both grayed out. It's not going to allow you to put a voucher onto a non-underwritten plan. Right, so our first fee here is going to be the commission. Now by law, I can charge a 12.5% commission on the insurance premium, which is usually this figure down here. So we're going to say it's 7,500 Rand times 12.5%, which is going to give us a total commission to that dealer of 937.50 Rand. Okay, which means that your payover is going to come to 6,562.50 Rand. Now, how does that get worked out? That is your total sales price minus your vehicle inspection fee less your commission. So that brings you up to 6,562.50. That's how the system is going to calculate this. Now please understand here that if you wanted to, you are more than welcome to do your commission on your total sales price. Your way of structuring this depends on your wording in your binder agreements and also in your contractual agreements between yourself and the dealership itself. We're then going to move on to risk reserving. So now we start implementing exactly what is going on with this entire product and what we're putting away for this product to run sufficiently. So let's just assume that we're going to be putting in 6,265 for that. The insurance company is going to take a total of, I don't know, let's say 250 Rand. We are going to say that the UMA is going to take a total of 19%. Okay, and then you're going to pay your claims administrator the balance. So once you've determined your base payover, you're now going to go into administrative costs and reservings. So you're going to enter in all the balances of the fees paid out to whoever is going to achieve those fees. So the first fee obviously is a risk reserve and fund fee. So how much are you putting of this money away in the eventuality of an actual claim? So that normally averages around about 46% or 40% actually. And then you're going to move on to all the other additional costs. So your insurer is going to have a particular fee, be that 2.5% or 3.5% or 4.5%, depending on how you're facing your liquidity. You're also going to have your owner or UMA fees, so what are you as the owner going to pull out up front. You're also going to have your claims administrator fee, if applicable, and your marketer or distributor fee will come into play here. Now, there are various ways of playing with this product, some even more. You can allocate what we call a sub-fund for the product. So if you are wanting to reinsure or put money into a secondary fund, you are welcome to now add in your sub-fund fees here. You can give a cash back, which is not applicable for warranty, but can be utilized for other products. The system will allow that there. This doesn't necessarily give you cash back. This is just a field that was in there, legacy history data that we've had to put into the system, but we can call that column anything you'd like it to be called, so that you can maybe allocate for a secondary expense or or another expense that happens along down the line. Your platform fee, if applicable, so if you've got any particular fees that relate to platforms or that relate to any form of IT or technology behind it, you can add it and include it into there. Whatever you do in regards to this, you are going to have to come out with a balance that balances your payover. If you add supplementary figures in here, so let's say you've got a roadside assistance program or something of that case that needs to come into here, you're going to add it back in here. And whatever you do, it needs to balance on the other opposite end. So just think of double entry system if you're in accounting, that whatever you do on the left hand side must match whatever you do on the right hand side of the system. If you enter into supplementary benefits and there's a value in here, it's going to give another pop-up for you that's going to then allow you to add in all the different types of benefits. So the amount that you're paying to the roadside assistance company and or the amount you're going to keep for yourself as an upfront commission. So this all depends on how your product is set up, and that's what you need to do. Now before we continue this, we now have to say what date is this going to be active from. So let's say we're going to go live with this on the 5th and we're going to add this product into the system now. So once you've added that, you'll get a pop-up that says the split and the product has been successfully updated. We're going to say thank you. Now, what is it going to do? It's going to say allocate permissions. Now, if you are dealing with multiple companies, so let's say I'm dealing with a third-party claims specialist and they need to get into this product or help me with the benefits or the booklet loading, then what will need to happen is you'll need to give them read permissions at least. However, if you're not and you handle everything in-house, both administration and claims, you can just say, I want both read and write permissions. Please note that if you forget this step, we can do it post-saving. The only issue is that it'll have to be done through support. This cannot be updated by yourselves once this has been set. So please set this, and once it's been set, you can't change it. So if you want to do any amendments, it does clearly state to you that please contact support for any amendments. I'm going to say OK. So that's the basis of the product setup. At this point, you can continue to trade. However, I'd suggest heavily against that, because you haven't loaded a product booklet and you haven't loaded any benefits at this point. So my entire thing here would be to say, put in a note for the company. We've added the note in. So now what we're going to do is we're going to say you haven't loaded any benefits and you haven't loaded a booklet. The issue with the benefits in the booklet is that if you have not loaded these up to the system at this point in time, what may happen is if a claim comes in while you are still waiting to do this thing, the claims agent will not be able to process a claim at all. It will error out. The system will say no benefits are loaded, or it'll give him a 0 authorized amount that he can go up to, which means that the claim cannot be processed, and also the claim cannot be further the claim cannot be further than 0 amount of money. The claim cannot be greater than 0, so it will be limiting the claims agent on that. My suggestion is that we go directly from the save and the note straight into loading your benefits and your booklets here. So we're going to say load booklet. What you're going to do is just navigate to wherever you've saved that booklet. Once the booklet is loaded, you can then say update the file and return. This will take a few moments while it's uploading the file into the system. And then we're going to go and load our benefits. What you will notice while we're doing all of this is that everything will turn green once it's been approved, or once the system is happy that everything is correctly done. Right, so that you are now in your benefit loading, what you're going to do here is you're going to mention that this is still an underwritten product, and you now need to tell your car criteria what the value of the car is going to be. So if this warranty covers all cars under all circumstances, you're going to say 999, forgive me, you're going to say this will give you 1 million kilometers and 99 years old, which most cars would probably never reach or would probably not be under warranty. So if you are using one warranty for all car types, you can enter that information in here. However, if you have multiple vehicle types, so let's say under 180,000 and under 5 years, and then you've got above 180,000, which will then be 999,000, and less than 99 years old. So for cars that are in a lower category versus cars that are in an older category, then you're allowed to add that in here. That will then give you 2 options to add in 2 different figures into the actual capture sheet for the benefit table. From here, you're going to work your way to the right, and you're going to say wear and tear, consequential, multiple claims, collection threshold, has a waiting period or penalty excess. Now, in most warranties, you're only going to select the wear and tear, and this will either be at 0, 50 or 100, depending on what your warranty covers. Let's say our warranty covers 50% wear and tear. That will allow you to add on a wear and tear percentage of 50% or up to 50% within your claims environment. If you allow consequential damage, you can also say up to what percentage. So let's say, for example, this is a cam belt issue. The car's cam belt is gone. It's taken out the head as well, because inevitably when you have a cam belt failure, your valves are going to get smashed. Now, most warranties will only cover for the actual cam belt failing and the replacement of the cam belt, which will have a set value. If you are going to allow, however, to then move it to consequential damage, which will then be the head and the gasket, or actually the valves, you can then select that you allow consequential damage and the percentage that you're going to allow. As most warranties do not allow for consequential, I'm going to leave mine blank for now, but that is just something that you know. If you allow for multiple claims, the system will allow you to do that too. So you can say, okay, well, you know, the guy's got a gearbox issue, but he's got an engine issue as well. The two are not related, but we're going to do both claims in one shot because he's taken this thing in, and this has been found under discovery of our testing of the vehicle. You are allowed to add that there. And also, is it up to a percentage? 100%, multiple claims. You can claim on 2 items at the same time. So let's even say, use our cam belt, for example. Cam belt and engine failure. Can we claim on 2 at the same time? By doing this, it will increase your authorized amount or allowed amount with both of those categories. So it'll allow you to say, if your cam belt's at 2,000, your engine's at 10,000, it'll give you a combined allowed amount of 12,000. So it's important to understand that that's how that works. If the warranty has a waiting period, so you have to wait at least 3 months, you can say 3 and drop down here between days and months. But generally, most warranties start effective immediately. As long as it's not a CPA claim, we're pretty good with that. And is there a penalty excess? So in other words, is there a standard penalty excess that needs to be posted onto this particular claim? Now, this will automatically add on whatever amount you've added on here. So if you've got a penalty excess across the entire board of 1,000 Rand, you can add that on there. Please note that if the claim is outside of your actual allowed amount, there's going to be an excess in any event. What will then happen then is that this will add a penalty excess on top of your shortfall that is due to that. Once we've done that, we're going to go into select main categories. When we're in select main categories, you're now going to select the categories that this vehicle does cover. So we want to go engine. Okay, we're going to cover the engine. We want to cover the gearbox. I'm just going to do a few. Gearbox, let's do automatic transmission, we're going to do the transaxle, and we're going to maybe do transmission manual, in fact. Okay. Once you've selected everything that you want for this warranty, you put it down here and it'll come through here. So it's going to show here into this casing here, your engine, gearbox, and then your 2 transmissions. So once you've selected all your categories, it will show here in this text box below, or this grid below, and you've got your 2 transmissions, you've got your clutch and flywheel, and you've got your engine. Now you need to add the subcategories. Now remember, in your warranty booklet, you've got the list of covered components and then covered subcategories. In other words, the covered individual items that will be covered, and then you've got your exclusions next to that. So what you need to do here is make sure that when you select this, these are all the internal components. So you will need to select what internal components are covered and what internal components are not. Otherwise, you're going to allow claims to go through that may not be valid for an actual claim. So we're going to say cables, we're going to say the casing, we're going to say the double clutches, we're going to say the gear lever, the links, and let's say the mechatronics. We're going to leave out selector or torque converters just because we can. We're going to say okay. We're then going to continue, and we're going to go and add on all the others for the rest of it. Okay, so once we've selected all of our subcategories, what we'd like to do now is we're going to continue. And it's going to give you the information where to add all of your particular values for each of your main categories. And remember, when you're doing a warranty, you work in terms of main category and then in terms of criteria A and B and C and D and E. However, in our case, we've only listed for categories or criteria A and B. I'm going to expand that a little bit, and let me explain the screen to you. This up to max vehicle value, if it is checked, what's going to happen is it's going to only allow you to replace or repair any component to the maximum vehicle value allowed. So that will be what price that vehicle came in to us from Ceriti and Signio. So whatever the sales value of the product was, or of the vehicle was. Your claims per year means you can actually cap it at how many claims you are allowed to do per year. Now, this is not generally set for warranty. However, for things like body line, chip, scratch and dent, you could set 4, for example, so that you only can claim once per quarter, depending again on the wording of your policy. Now, when you look at the max value over here, what you need to do is that this will be the maximum amount of value that you can give to any particular type of claim. So that'll be overall on the policy. So I can say here 260,000 Rand. That will then cap this entire policy at a max value of 260,000 Rand. So you've got the choice, either the max value or up to the vehicle value. That's up to you, whichever you feel is absolutely necessary. Now, when we do this, we're going to say category A, we're going to say is an unlimited claim. So we're going to leave all category A's at that, except for the clutch. We're going to limit the clutch at, let's say, 35,000 Rand. And then the engine is unlimited and your transmissions are unlimited. However, for category B, we're going to say, right, for older cars, for transmissions, we're going to give you a total claimable amount of 35,000 Rand. We're going to give you clutch a total of, let's say, 25,000 Rand. For your engine, let's be generous here. Obviously, you've had this assessed. And then for your transmission again, same as the main transmission, we're going to give the 35,000 Rand. Okay. Again, for each line item, you can also indicate how many claims per year you can do, so that you can control either overall or within each line or in each component. And then the max value per claim here will be what you can go to on max. If it's at 0, it'll assume these two values. And if you add something in here, it'll only allow the claimant to go up to a certain amount per claim. Carryover, remember when I said to you, you've got an assistance plan that has a different costing. So if you say that if he doesn't use the full 35,000 now, and you can use the balance of whatever wasn't claimed today in the next one, so 35 plus whatever wasn't balanced on the last claim, you can click that. Now, this is not generally utilized for warranty. This is more utilized for when the person has got an assist plan. So in other words, I'm going to give you 6,000 Rand to use over the course of the vehicle or the course of the term of the policy. I can use a carryover, so if I use 800 Rand now of a 1,500 policy schedule, I can use the balance at the next claim or the next service. Full benefit amount will be if you are going to be using monthly. This has no relevance on a setup plan or on a single premium plan like we've got at the moment. And when you're happy with that, you're going to update and return. This screen may take a little bit of a while because we're saving each value twice for each particular subcategory. So if you've got more than this on your list, it's going to take a little bit longer. When you have less than this on the list, it doesn't take too long. Once it has been saved, you're now going to just say here, updated the benefits. What the notes are doing, it's tracking who was doing the work, what date and time they were doing their work, and it gives you a certain way of being able to go back and trace who did what on these products and when the changes were made or when it was done correctively. Now, before we move on to the other products, the other thing that is standard in every single product setup is our split system, which is at the top here. You'll see that we are currently on master splits. When you're doing costings, you might find that you want to change a split between one dealer to another or one silo to another. So you will be able to add in a secondary split by pushing on the plus key here. When you push on the plus key, you'll see split 1 will now show. It brings through all your costings as they are, so you can now do adjustments to what the baseline costing was. Now you can set up your UMAs and everything like you want to. and you can now start adjusting the figures. So let's say, for example, I'm going to take 1,000 Rand out of here, and I'm going to put 1,000 Rand into the burning in sub-fund. Let's say I need to reinsure this particular product because the dealership is maybe a little more spendthrift and their burn ratios are not as good as what I'd like them to be. So I'm going to use that 1,000 Rand to reinvest somewhere else to try and get a greater return on this particular product. I can now put add. So once you put this split in here, what will happen is now you'll be able to then say, right, is the split financial? In other words, I just want to reinsure, or is it that I'm going to now limit the benefits on this particular product for split 1, for example? Now, when that happens, you'll be able to then update your benefits and then draw through the benefits for split 1 as well. So when you go out and you come back into the product, you know you've got your 2 splits. So now you'll see here that you've got yellow marks against load booklet and load benefit. Now that means basically that what's happened here is you've got 1 set of splits in and 1 product booklet in. So what the system now is telling you is that be warned, because you haven't got in benefits for the second split. So now, if this was purely because you needed to reinsure or there's a high burn rate on the product and you want to move over to load benefit, and you're going to keep the benefits the same but you're going to reinsure some of the reserving money, then what you're going to do here is you're going to then literally say drop that down, split 1, and now it's going to ask you, are you going to add new benefits? In other words, are you going to lower the benefits of this particular product now or increase them, or are you going to just use exactly the same benefits through the whole product schedule? So literally it'll say here, press OK to choose between the relevant split benefits. In other words, yes, you are going to use the same benefits as previous. No, then it'll take you to having to manually enter this all together again. For ease of use for training, I'm going to just say yes, and I'm going to choose what split I must copy it from, and you're going to hit save and return. It's going to warn you one more time, and then it's going to tell you has been successfully allocated. You're going to click OK. So now you'll see when this is done and the saving is complete, what's going to happen is your split here will change to split 1. When the saving is complete, you're going to move now to split 1. The text boxes are going to go away, and you'll see now that your split 1 is identical to your original product. So exactly the same benefits that you've loaded into here as you've needed them. So now that that's done, you know that your split has been loaded correctly, your button goes green, you are happy, the system's happy that everything can move on as you need to. Again, with the booklet, you drop down to split 1, you're going to browse for the booklet itself, and you're going to upload the file. Okay, so once the product booklet is loaded, you're going to see that also has turned green, and we are happy with this product now. The product has now been perfectly set up to handle both claims and testing. It'll be able to handle the actual splits and the reporting. So you've completed this product from start to end. Let's quickly touch on all the other products quickly. What you will notice is that as you go down here, the products are loaded exactly the same way, and the exact same mechanisms are in place for each type of product. The only one that's different is particularly your monthly plan, where you are given 2 options, whether you're doing an insured product or a non-underwritten product. If you're doing an insured product, you're going to get one particular type of screen, and when you move on to a non-underwritten product, the screen will change slightly. That'll give you a different way of working out. So effectively, that's your 2 choices you're going to make. Let's familiarize ourselves with the 2 screens. Monthly insured product, same instances occur. You have a product name and a product code. You are then going to switch between underwritten or non-underwritten product, and you are going to look again for the same product categories, except this time I've got vehicle excess waiver, short-term cover, deposit cover, monthly service, and then whatever else you're going to need. So these again are customized. I'm seeing plenty due to the fact that I am on master permissions, and I see all the subcategories or unique categories for each client. Your payment frequency will give you 4 different options, and that'll be annually, biannually, monthly, or quarterly. So it'll default automatically to monthly, as most of us will do monthly collections. Where you're doing a different variety of collections, you must pick within these 4 categories. That will also pull through to your banking side, which will then allow you to collect on the necessary due or collection dates. You also have your load benefit and load booklets here, notes that you can add into, but you'll see that the same sort of thing works in the same way. Let's go over the features quickly. So you've got the owner of the UMA, which is going to be who's the administrator of the policy. Claims administrator, claims administrator, which will be who's going to run the claims for the policy. Risk underwriter, which will be literally the underwriter or the insurance company. Marketer or distributor, now this you can load in either your call center agent, or you can load in maybe someone who's distributing the product that's outside of your house. They can earn a fee on that product. What will then work now for you is that you need to choose between a set price or allow a manual override. So if you're going to select allow a manual override, you leave all of this out. That means that when you capture the product, it's going to ask you for a value or a price that you're attaching to this product. Now, if you're doing a service plan or something, that works very, very well for you, because that might be determined based on a third-party calculation system. If you're doing a set price, you are going to only work on a set sales price per month, so 250 Rand or whatever the case may be. If not, and you uncheck that, you're going to work on a premium calculation, so 0.1578, and that's going to give you a percentage that will be amortized based on an amount that you're going to enter when you value the product. So when you sell the product, it's going to ask you for an amount, so it'll either be the amount of the vehicle value or whatever the case may be. So you will have to say the vehicle is valued to this, or the base costing is this, so it'll ask you for that particular base cost to work the percentage out on. If this has been done through Signia and Ceriti, put in the calculation, but it'll bring in its own pricing. Remember, anything imported through Signia and Ceriti will automatically load into the database regardless of what's happening. What will then happen is you can then have the option to set up a minimum or maximum benefit. You'll then have the opportunity to set maximum benefit by the customer. So in other words, the customer chooses the benefit or you choose the benefit. So let's say, for example, this product is set up that the customer wants R1 million worth of cover. So that will then be set up by the customer at that point in time, which will then invoke this calculation. If not, and it's a vehicle, so in other words, you want to invoke that calculation on a vehicle, then what you'll do is that you'll uncheck that so that it cannot be chosen at the sell point. However, we leave that on for the time being because that will invoke asking the question, how much do you want in that sale? Max benefit to be chosen at sale. So this is where you have an excess waiver, deposit protection cover, or something similar, even a funeral cover. So what will effectively happen here is that you're going to set up your minimum benefit. So in other words, what is the lowest amount you are prepared to cover versus what is the maximum amount you are prepared to cover. And that will be requested at the time of sale. Now, depending on what is set up here, and if this button is checked, then this calculation will work in accordance with all three rules. Not only what is the maximum cover, it's going to then say to you, how much do you want covered? And it'll work out on the percentage that you've given here. What will then happen is it'll then ask you what is going to be your minimum premium. So let's say our minimum premium is 90 Rand a month. So if the calculation works out here to under 90, it'll bump it to 90, or it will then take whichever's highest. So if the premium that it works out is higher than 90 Rand a month, it'll take the highest premium. If it's a funeral policy or the policy is allowing dependents, let's say a life cover or something like that, you can then add in, let's say 3, and that'll include your beneficiary. So you're going to say how many dependents can you load onto this policy at one time. So this will allow you then to literally say 3 in this particular case. Then what it's going to say is maximum units. So let's say on additional liability limitations. So let's say how many cars will this deposit cover protect? We're going to say 3. Okay, and then we're going to say what is the price per additional unit? So we can say 90 again. So if you've loaded more than one risk item on the policy, it'll go up to the maximum. When you've exceeded the maximum, it's then going to add an additional 90 Rand of cover on top of the calculation for each additional risk item that you've loaded. So that's how the product is going to work out immediately. Then we've got add-on costs, and this is purely for monthly. So you can now add in a Rand value of certain things that will allow you to bump the premium even further. So let's say you're going to charge for a debit order fee, or you're going to charge for a contract fee, a system fee, or excess of loss, or SASRIA. You can now add in a set value that is allowable here. So if you add in a contract fee of 20 Rand a month, that will bump 20 Rand a month on top of the premium that's calculated and on top of whatever the additional units are if you've got more than one risk item, or more than, in this case, 3 risk items. Is the broker allowed to add a special admin fee? If that is checked, then effectively what will happen here is that the broker can then add on a fee, let's say for their own purposes that they'll collect monthly. Usually that's unchecked, but pro rata is usually checked at default, so that if I'm selling this product in the middle of the month, or like today on the 3rd, I will collect pro rata next month, double premium almost, because we are running at the 5th of the month. Once that's done, we select our active date again for the product, and we then say, is there going to be a claims increase or is there an annual increase? So claims increase will always persist when someone does a claim. So what will happen is when you do a claim on this policy, it'll then give you a letter stating that in the next 30 days your policy's premium is going to increase by a certain percent of whatever you've added in here. If you've got an annual increase, you can now add it into here as well, which will then allow you to then also create a letter within 30 days of the premium coming up on your anniversary date to say your premium is going to increase by X amount of money. Let's set up the administrative costs. So the first cost that comes up is going to be your insurer cost. So in the insurer case, you're going to give them, let's say, 3.5% of this particular value of whatever the calculated commission is going to be. In terms of broker commission, you're going to say 12.5% for the sale of the item. Then your administrator, what are they going to get? Which is usually around 9 to 12. And your UMA admin fee, you're going to say you're going to give them also, let's say, 12%. Which means that it'll automatically calculate what you're going to put down as the risk premium. So in other words, in this particular case, you're going to put down a 63% risk premium cost at the end of the day back to the insurer holding fund. What you've done is when you've added these figures in, you need to show me who is going to earn these particular product benefits. So now you're going to put that down there so we can allocate who's going to earn this where and how, and it's going to adjust your report to say eccentric fee or hollard fee or whatever the case may be in the report, so that you are able to see who's earning the fees and where. Once this is done completely, again, you're going to hit add, you're going to add in manufacturers, and you're going to load in. Once you're completed here, you're going to click add, and the basic process will start again. You will need to add in your note for this particular product, load your benefits, and load your booklet. If there are multiple splits, I'd suggest you do that now before you move on forward. So that's how you work with the monthly insured product. If you're looking at the monthly non-underwritten product, the same thing persists. The only change here that happens is the fact that we do not allow you to choose a benefit of cover, and your benefits and dependencies will be maximized at whatever rate you've stipulated here. So that is basically how the monthly system works. It gets even easier from here. Let's look at maintenance product. Okay, looking at a maintenance product, you'll see that you've only got the selection of a VAP product, and now you're going to enter in the product name. Remember that this is, and these two sections here are specifically for once-off premium, single premium VAP products. These two sections here are for once-off single premium VAP products. Again, enter in your product name, product code, whether it's a service or maintenance plan, your category here, which will be maintenance plan, whichever category you've decided on as your customization has been set, your brand or banking, so whichever bank account this must go to. This is usually into one of your own if you are the UMA. If you're the insurer, it might go to the UMA's account. And then your credit type, whether you're going to do an original credit or a voucher credit note. If you're going to offer vouchers and you have got a deal with the dealer to say I'm going to claw back vouchers, you can now add this clause into that. You're going to then select one more time on the underwritten, non-underwritten, so we can get the terming right. And we've also got the submit to Traffico button here if you're adding on any various add-on products. Excuse me. Okay. Once all that has been done, you can now go again onto the costing section. So we're going to just select Designer Solutions again. But again, you can set that up into Owner, UMA, Claims Administrator, and also to Insurer. And then you're going to add in here what we now call percentages. Now, because these are working on percentages, you're going to use an external calculator here like Autolytics, or maybe you're going to have your own costing modules that are on paper-based or Excel. For service and maintenance plans, because you are going to get a raw figure depending on how your calculation works, let's say 23,000 Rand. And this is different per each car. So in the models that we work on, 9 times out of 10, these are different per vehicle that we're actually going to use. So now in this particular case, we're going to work on percentages. So your UMA fee, let's say that that'll be at 9%. Your marketer fee, let's just say that that is at 5%. Your claims administrator fee, let's give them 7.5%. And then sub-fund if you are going to do any reinsuring or saving money elsewhere for any particular case. And then what are you going to give them as an agent commission? So in here, let's just go 12.5. Forgive me, 12.5%. And then if you're going to give a voucher, what value is that? Normally the vouchers range between 500 to 1,500 Rand for each UMA that's selling it, or each agent that's selling it. And now you're going to say the held by. The held by you're going to leave. If you leave held by, it will automatically default to the insurance company. However, if your dealership is holding the funds instead of you, which is an option that is sometimes sold as a benefit to the dealer in getting a particular product, then what you're going to do here is that you will then say the dealership's name. So you'll put in here your company, whether it be the bikes or whether it be four-wheel cars or whatever the case is. You're going to add in a particular dealership here that will then hold the funds, which means you are only going to bill for administrative costs. If you do held by in any one of these categories, whether it be single premium, monthly premium, maintenance, or workshop plan, effectively what's going to happen here is that you're only going to invoice for your administration costs. So that's going to be the UMA fee, marketer fee, administration fee, and your sub-fund fee. Your agent commission and your reserving will then be left at the dealership, so you're only going to have a very small invoice that will include just your fees. And that's what the held by function does, and that's across all our products. Right, Campbell service allowed, well, it's really a redundant feature right now. Again, it was a legacy component we had to add in, but you can add anything under your benefits that you want to add in that will be allowable when it comes to a point of a claim. Active must be checked at all times, and then you can add in if you are being charged an Autolytics fee. So let's say you want to charge 65 Rand per maintenance plan to cover your Autolytics fee, or if you want to add in a supplementary roadside assistance plan, you can add it under supplementary here. Once all that's done, you click add, and again you follow the same steps. Add in your note. Once that's done, load up your booklet. Once that's done, load in your benefits. So that works almost identically. Let's move now on to workshop plans. Workshop plans are plans that are sold not by necessarily the F&I, but these are non-underwritten products used to retain clientele by the actual dealership themselves. So effectively what you're going to do here is you're going to add in exactly the same information as to how you're going to do this. This is a per quote based plan. This is a per quote based plan, and you will need to have the quote before you actually go and attempt to sell this plan. But in order to load this product, you are going to literally load the product name and your product code that you're going to allocate to it. And please note that the product codes must be given to Sarita Insignia. We'll get into that after we've gone through all of these informations. You're going to add the product name and you're going to add the product code. And you're going to make sure that the product code is unique yet again. You're going to select whether it's going to be service or maintenance, and you're going to select here what your invoice type is going to be, again your bank or branding, and your credit note or invoice template. So as you can see, over all four categories, the left hand side page normally stays almost identical right the way through. All that changes is what's in this container here that will allow you then to select what you are going to bill and how it's going to work. Now, for a workshop plan, it's basically a retention policy for dealerships that is quote by quote based. So very much like your service and maintenance, you're going to get a value product, and that's going to be 8,500 Rand, for example. So you're going to tell the system what to work out on top of that in order to get that fee to where it needs to be. So if you're going to add inflation, so the inflationary rate that you and the dealership have negotiated between quote and the time that the service is going to take place. The settlement discount the dealership is going to give us or give you as the UMA. Then you're going to add on maybe a sub-fund, or if you're going to add on a little bit of fluff, just in case that you don't want this thing to go out of whack, or that you have perhaps a dealership that might be misquoting. You want to add a little bit of puff on that. You're then going to give in what we call the workshop commission. So that's the person selling this plan. Who's going to get a commission, and what's that commission going to be? And that's usually worked up in a rand per month, guys. So please understand that these values that you're entering here are per month. Your agent or UMA commission, your administration fee, your claims administration fee, your next or collab fee, distributor fee, and initiation fee. So when you're adding in all these costs here, the thing to remember is that all the prices that you're adding in other than initiation fee at the end will be a monthly rate, where your initiation fee is a once-off fee that you're going to initiate. Even with your voucher will be another once-off fee. Your supplementary, you can add in a supplementary product if you'd like to. That'll add value to the product, let's say roadside assistance or battery repair or something. And then you can default the contract months to a certain value. So you can select here what will be your default months. So usually it's at 12 months because it's a yearly service. So you're going to add on 12 months, and then again held by and the active date, and then you are able then to save this product. And again, I start at the very beginning. You are literally going to say add in your note, you're going to add in your booklet, and you're going to add in your benefits, and that will be able to then be loaded up front onto the system. So that'll be pretty much how these 4 product types will work, and how you're going to load them up into the individual systems as you go. Right, a few things I'd like to bring to your attention that will definitely help you when you are handling VAP products, or even any particular product. If the product has been sold by a third-party system, let's say iPlatform, Signio, Ceriti, etc. If the product has been sold by a third-party platform, let's say iPlatform, Signio, or Ceriti, for example, then what we always suggest is that you ensure that the product code that is coming to us is set under their product option code, or in iPlatform's case under the product code, so that we can identify the product as it comes into our system. Therefore we don't have to map it manually. So we would definitely say that whatever you do is make sure that you put in the product code and map that to Ceriti and Signio, in particular their product option code. Whatever their product code is, we don't care. We only look at the product option code. So that will then automatically map into the system. That will also help us map to what dealership you are going to be utilizing, or what split that dealership is going to be utilizing if we get a direct match. If we don't get a direct match and that dealership, let's say, is sitting on split 2, we do a manual mapping and it'll always go to master. So we always suggest that whatever you do, that this product option code becomes the option code in Ceriti and Signio. It is highly, something that it is highly suggested, something that we would definitely need to make sure that we map correctly. The other things that we see are sometimes problematic is that sometimes the person loading the policy is not necessarily the person that is able to load the benefits or the booklet. So if you have a multi-step process in your team whereby you've got one person loading benefits, one person loading product values, then I'd suggest that you have a check and balance in place, that these benefits get loaded almost immediately after you've loaded the product. Failure to do so will result in claims delays, because your claims agents unfortunately will not be able to process a claim if the benefits are not loaded into the system. Some more helpful hints to you. So if you click on view products, you're going to get a list of all of your products here. You can also then go in and type, and as you type, it will automatically assume what you're trying to type. So after the first 3 characters, you will start seeing a list of what is nearest match to whatever you've typed in. So that's how you can search for your products. And when you double click, you will then just gain entry into that product if you have the permission to do so. And with that, we conclude this particular section of how to load a product on the Synaptic system. I hope that this was helpful to you, and if you need any support, may I suggest that you email our support department at support@designersolutions.co.za. Alternatively, you can either contact your team account manager, either Flavia or Quinton, to assist you in the process. Have a great day.